Welcome. I'm sure the more astute of you will have realised that I suppose from towards the end of May all through June and up to a few days ago there had been a video on this channel every day. But the last few days I've been feeling a little burnt out. I had 2 days in this last week where I've had that sort of vertigo feeling, not very nice, and all I could do was lay down. My sister, who'd been here for a week, returned to the UK on Wednesday, so we had that sort of feeling down as well on top of that. It's just a lower conscious, the sort of having another's energy around that's like-minded on the same frequency. But of course, it's a reminder of everything else that it's temporary, so then left with that feeling of sort of almost like an emptiness. But I can give this as a most beautiful testimony of what has come out of that. I have a cat trying to get on my lap here. Ouch. I wish you wouldn't use your claws. That's Junus here, getting rather big. There was a time where I could have all three sitting on my lap, but really maximum of about 2 now. They've grown that much. Still, we've sidetracked there. So my sister that came and stayed nearby in Montchique also had this same sort of vertigo, dizzy feeling on the Saturday. So I wouldn't be surprised if many more of you out there will also have had the same experience. So to get back to this testimony, don't react to things, sit with the things. As Lana A. Labonte says, sit with the pain. If you suppress the pain, you suppress the pleasure. Well, it didn't take long for that feeling to shift, because I had an email. Sorry, the cats had another one's trying to get on my lap, so it's like claws dug into the leg, and they're sort of fighting each other. Oh dear! Come on, you two. This is normal. They're sort of half fighting, half playing with each other. Right, we will get back to the story now. So, sitting with this feeling of lack and loss, but acknowledging that it's temporary. Like everything, it's temporary. It doesn't last. I got this most beautiful email. I shan't mention the name, from a brother who asked me, could he adopt me as a spiritual brother? He'd lost an older brother, I believe, to a motorbike accident. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he also lost a younger brother, and he said, you remind me of my younger brother, can I adopt you? And I thought, well, how beautiful was that? And I offer that as a testimony. If you let things just happen, just observe, acknowledge the feelings you're feeling inside, and it will pass and open up to something far more beautiful. So I wonder how many of you have also been feeling a little bit out of sorts, shall we say, over this last week. I will put it down to most likely magnetic influences, astral influences that are causing this. Right, I'm going to get on to the main topic of this video. Well, actually, there's 2 topics. First is to do with the number 666 and Bible interpretation. And I ask you to listen to this. Don't be put off because I've said Bible, because that is highly edited and has lost all meaning. It follows a pattern like everything else. That things start in the metaphysical, in the unseen, and then manifest into the material, especially if they're read as a literal story. They materialize in a literal form. and obviously the script of scriptures has been followed and taken literally. So let's just turn here to Genesis chapter 2, and we're on, where are we, verse 19. And out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever called every living creature, that was the name thereof. Now it's often cited or assumed that God created everything and then said to Adam, you name it. But in this story, it's specific about don't eat from the tree of life or the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So Adam did not name those for a start. The knowledge of good and evil was already there. So let's just read this verse again here. So we're on Genesis chapter 2, verse 20. And Adam gave names to all cattle, and to the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found any help meet for him. So the key word here, and to every beast of the field. Notice the word beast. This is where we now turn to Revelations. Excuse me, chapter 13, verse 18. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Now, I'm sure most of you are familiar with the association of 666 with evil, with the devil. It's certainly promoted that way in films and things. Children of the Corn 666, for example. But it's already told you in Genesis in chapter 2 that Adam named every beast. And it also says here in Revelations, verse 18 of chapter 13, about let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. So what is this referring to here? Now I want you to picture the double helix. Interesting word, helix. If you look at it, I'm sure you can see it contains he, it contains L, and it alludes to elixir. That's, shall we say, the life force. So if you think of the double helix, you have a central pole, as it were, and, shall we say, two serpents of opposite polarity. So you could say it's your angel and your demon on your shoulder. So when we look at this number 666, and we're looking at this in the metaphysical, in the internal interpretation of this, I would suggest that the central 6 refers to the 6th chakra, or the mind's eye. So when you have your twin caduceus, your angel and your serpent on each shoulder, if you rise those up, because it says in Exodus and referred to in the Gospel of John about just as Moses, the serpent must be raised up. And it says further on, Jesus says in the story, be as wise as serpents. Notice it's plural. So I would suggest what is being alluded to through this is when you have your angel and your demon, and they are in line, shall we say, on the linear sense, you're seeing things eye to eye, within inside oneself. You have the knowledge of good and evil, because we're talking about an internal tree, which is your entire nervous system. It resembles a tree roots, for example. You also have inside you the tree of life, which would be your arteries and your veins, where your blood moves around in your internal universe, in your internal Garden of Eden. So if we take that middle number 6 representing the mind's eye, and then you have the good serpent and the evil serpent, because we're in a realm of duality. The physical vessel that you find yourself in is very much part of this physical reality. So when you raise those two serpents up to the level of the mind's eye, that is where you get the 666. Now if you add those together, you're going to get 18. So 1 and 8 makes 9. 9 is a number of completion. So at an earthly level, you could say that the 666, the earthly, which is representing the beast system, the animalistic, when everything is in line inside yourself, that is what the 666 refers to. If you look at the word devil, it's dividing L. L is representing mankind. So you've got the L in the he elixir, the helix, the double helix. It's your life force energy that is flowing in and through you. But notice also it says that is Adam that names things. It also says in Revelations here, if I can find the... Yeah, here we are. For it is the number of a man. Well, if things are named and labelled by man, here is something very interesting about 666. Recognizing the beast system. So if we take the Phoenix event in 2040, the Nemesis X object, and the dark satellite. So we've got 2040. 2 and 4 makes 6. There's your first 6. 6 years later, you have the Nemesis X object, which will fall out the sky. That will do the falling. I'll come back to that in a moment, because it surrounds the number 616. Then 6 years later, you have the dark satellite in 2052. So you've got 2040, 2 and 4 make 6. Now what's interesting, 6-year intervals after that, 2046, you add 2, 4 and 6 together, you're going to get 12, which 1 and 2 equals 3. So you've got 6, you've got 3. Now 2052, 2 and 5 and 2 makes 9. So you've got 639 being referenced there. Remember the often quoted saying about Tesla said to understand the universe is to understand 369. But we have these 3 objects, 6 years separating between intervals between the first and the second and the third. The sum of the numbers of those years adds up to 666. If we go with the Annus Mundi dating, that calendrical system, we get the same pattern. 5934 would be 2040, so add 5 and 9 and 3 and 4, you are going to get 14, 17, 21. 2 and 1 makes 3. So in that sequence you have 3, followed by 5940, so you add the 5 and the 9, which is 14, and you add 4, which comes to 18, 1 and 8 makes 9. So you have 3, 9, and then you add 5946, the dark satellite in the Annus Mundi dating, you get 5 and 9, 14, 18, add 4, and then you add another 6, gives you 24. So 2 and 4 make 6. So you have a pattern there of 3, 9, 6. So again, you have this 3, 6, 9 in a slightly different order, but it alludes to the 666. So if we go back to Genesis in chapter 2 about Adam naming everything, well, that would surely include all the calendrical systems, the numbers and such like. So the mark of the beast, let's just think about that. Let's think about how we can use the word mark. If you mark something, you are spotting it. Hence, like a sniper or a marksman. A marksman, incidentally, is a name that is derived from someone to do with the Roman Catholic Church, a member of the clergy that could not read or write, so they would put their cross, and that is the origin of where you get the term marksman. And obviously there's all the intrigue about assassination that stems from that, annihilating threats and things, so you're marking your target, as it were. But we're talking about internally here, so the mark of the beast is when you spot inside what is going on. You've brought everything, so you're seeing things in the mind's eye at eye level, where the meeting of and seeing things eye to eye. So your twin serpents and your mind's eye. As I've said in a previous video, if you go to this cinema in the mind, excuse me, just have a little bit of coffee. What you actually see in the mind's eye is the dialogue between the conscious and the subconscious. So there's your 3 6s. That's why it is the number of man. But of course it's been highly altered and edited to suit an agenda of one of those 6s, shall we say. That is only my interpretation, but I don't feel that I've ever heard anybody suggest this in quite this way. So the 666, like everything else, it's nothing to be feared. That's just a story. It's internalizing what is presented to you and weighing it up inside, which requires bringing those two life forces inside you, the positive and the negative, and seeing things in the balance in the mind's eye. So the 616, now this was, as far as I know, was suggested by the late Nigel of Devil's Playground 2. He said that the number of the devil, or the number of evil, is 616. So if you use the way I've described it, so you have the central number to represent, shall we say, the spine and the raising of that energy. Obviously, if it's in the 1, in the 616, it's at its root, it's its lowest level, which is coloured red, which also references hell. So you could also say that the helix is hell 9. It's a new way of looking at that. So the second part of this video, it's a question that I'm sure we've all asked ourselves, and that is, what is my purpose for being here? I'm sure you've all thought that at some point, and you're sort of wandering through without actually having the end goal being given to you. You've got to find it for yourself. So what is your role? What is your purpose for being here? I would suggest that you are already on your spiritual path, and just allow things to come to you. yes, you can seek, and in doing so, because it is about taking active steps, you will draw things towards you. You may get a video recommendation, a channel recommendation, um, an email or a message with a link to something for you to look at and weigh up inside. That is part of your path. But to use a Rudolf Steiner analogy and a way of describing this, for there to be love, which is the strongest force, there has to be a basis of interest. So what is your purpose? What is your mission in this reality? Reflect inside yourself. What interests you? What experiences have you gained throughout this life so far? It may be that you've been through an addiction problem. It may be that you've overcome a mental block like depression. That is giving you experience. So you're able to talk from the experience rather than from a concept. You already know the truth from the experience. You would know what depression feels like rather than just having a sort of conceptual idea of what it may be. So you have your experience, which is your living Akashic record that you are building up as you go on your spiritual journey. Now all you have to do is ask yourself what interests you. That will give you the key of your spiritual path. We're dealing with a realm that is very much in the metaphysical, so it would be difficult in many ways to say your mission or your purpose is this or it's that. I would suggest that it's more multi-skilled, and you'll have a more general spread of knowledge about many things, but there may be something where your interest, something grabs your attention and you feel that is your calling. But don't be worried if it seems like that you haven't found what your path is. Let's use a more modern day analogy here. If we take a scene like the First World War, there are many stories of where there is dire conflict, unpleasant situations that people have found themselves in. It is through that experience that something has been found inside them, an inner strength has come out that would not have been found, but it is something within inside them. It could be an heroic act, it could be rescuing someone on the battlefield. Hacksaw Ridge film comes to mind as a perfect example of this. Against all odds, in extreme adversity, that the true inner strength, the true inner being is now coming out and the mission becomes clear. So don't focus on the worry of trying to find your mission. That will come out, same as depression would come out, through events and situations, and then something inside you is activated. So that you could say that the depression is that rain cloud that comes first. Now, if you don't react, if you acknowledge and you sit with that, hopefully not for too long, what will then open up will be something far more beautiful that you can then respond to. So, to reiterate the story I started this video with, the lower conscious and the physical is feeling loss and sadness that a sister has departed, but they were only coming to visit. It wasn't they were coming here to be a permanent resident, so that was inevitable anyway. But I get this feeling every time somebody comes to visit. It's nothing new. I'm used to it. There is always a sadness when somebody leaves. And it's like, oh, when will we see them again? Because you enjoy being in their company. It's the reciprocal exchange of similar frequency energies. But it's learning through the experience and recognizing that everything in this reality is finite, so everything has a time span attached to it. So it may be a guest that only stays for a week, so that feeling is always going to be there. It's a shame that they've gone. But I can't put my lower self needs at the top. This is where free will comes in, and everybody has their own life, they have their own purpose, and you're on that path whether you sort of recognize it or not. But it does, if you follow and recognize these patterns with these things, allow the things to come, but don't react to them. Know that something better will follow. You're in a realm of perceived duality. This is why you have the angel and the demon. It's for you to find the balance inside yourself, to recognize what that 666 really is. It is nothing to be fearful of at all. It is an internal recognition of self, to recognize that you are a tree of life, you are a knowledge of good and evil, you are both trees, this physical body is your Garden of Eden. So I hope that has given you a new way of looking at things, and particularly with this 666 numbering and what it really pertains to, and also about the label of things. Think about that label, the laboratory of L, I would suggest. I'll end this with my personal conclusion based on things so far, that we are in a holographic simulation. There is an elite that is outside of this construct, that is mirroring what is happening in this reality, where information is suppressed or is edited and it is meant to be misleading. I would suggest that outside of this construct, there are many others like us who are totally unaware that there is this simulation where some of us have come into this, and that whole thing of feeling stuck in it. I don't believe that we are stuck. It doesn't feel right to me. It seems a very negative thing. I feel that is put out deliberately as well. There was something else. It just flashed into my mind. I may have to hold it over to another video unless it comes fairly quick, because we're nearly up to 30 minutes here. Yes, we'll leave it to the next video. Probably as soon as I've stopped recording this, it will pop back into the mind, but it's always good to hold or leave things over for next time. It was something to do... Yes, you've got the word label, so maybe that also refers to that this is some sort of laboratory. The way I've described it is a diagnostic zone, a contained field for testing things out. If you perceive this reality as being like that, that to me is a game changer, because it is benevolence that we are working our way through a contained area. So what is tested out here? This journey that we take to overcome death, as it were, to overcome the labeling of things as that's good, that's evil, which may be a very different perspective from another, of mastering those emotions so it doesn't become conflict. It makes perfect sense that it would all be worked out and played out here. It would be then for being contained, it would actually be for benevolent reasons that things are done here, rather than spilled out into a real reality. But look at this pattern, just to end on this, with this duality, the good, the evil, the internal, the external, the micro, the macro. What if that also pertains to this perception of controllers and the so-called elites. What if that is a mirror of something outside of this construct, but then is playing everything in this contained field, this diagnostic zone? And I feel that is a huge clue. Do you really want to die agnostic, or do you wish to recognize the 666 that is within you, the creator that is within you? And again, referenced in scriptures, do you not realize that Christ is within you? It is all there for you to be found. It is reflected externally in this system, this beast system, that it is all an inside job, i.e. corruption. Think of the word corruption, you get corrupted files. So if this is all a simulation, it is running a corrupted program. But we can correct it certainly on the internal, which will then radiate out and manifest out and become material in the external. So I hope that gives you a more positive feeling, a way of looking at these things in a new way, because I don't feel anybody else has explained this quite like this. So just to recap, 666, think of the calendrical systems, which would have been something created by man, by the Adam, the labeling of things. Think where this is all taking place. It's that think again, of course. Think, if you consider that word, you've got the T representing creator, H representing human, and then ink. So committing it to paper, for example. Plenty in this video to ponder and to weigh up. Let me know in the comments, and if you're struggling with life, do come and talk to me. If you get odd days where you don't feel quite right, again, come and talk to me. The door is always open for you. I have needs in this material reality, but I'm just asking for a minimum donation of $5 or €5 or £5 sterling. More if you feel you can, but the most important thing is to help you find the real you inside you, which is going to go a long way into helping you finding out what your purpose for being here is, what your mission is. That will become apparent, but do we need to define them into labels? Do we need to say, oh, you're in the role of Atlas, or you're in the role of Odin, or whatever? Could you name, say, 144,000 of a pantheon of gods, for example? It would not be easy to do. And when we're dealing in the realm of the metaphysical, things are a bit like the way they think things come into the mind's eye. They don't define into the senses as we define them in the external sense. So as always, unconditional love to you all.